Now, Ramaswamy is saying that if we want to look at women in the grassroots, the marginalized groups, then we have to look beyond these texts and these texts, these texts which are talking about the upper class women and the sensitized social groups. And she says that you have to look for alternative sources. Which are these alternative sources? Folk literature, songs. She has made use of a lot of these folk songs. Then occasional depiction in temple sculpture, and literary compositions of women saints like Andal, 7th century women saints like Andal. Now here, very interestingly, you're finding a wide range of economic activities, diverse categories of evidence of economic activities of different classes of women. Different classes means these marginalized groups of women. You see women engaged in agriculture, in pastoral economy, in spinning, weaving, in bleaching cloth, in pot making, in mat making, in goldsmithery, and various other things. Then you also find a representation of women as wage earners. Now the question is about the economic self-sufficiency of women. So here Ramaswamy is saying that if you look at these folk songs, etc., there was a patriarchal stranglehold over property of these marginalized classes of women. There was discrimination where it came to daily wage between the male and the female. Okay. Now another important domain that we can talk about in gender relations is the question of succession.
Yeah, here I was just wondering, because we have some examples perhaps of patrilineal succession by women. So could you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, within the patrilineal system, what is happening is basically the the elder son is becoming is succeeding his father. Now, interestingly, we are finding, I will give you 3 instances, and they have been worked on very well. One is Raj Tarangini. This has been worked on by Kumkum Rai. Then Cynthia Talbot's depiction of female Rudramma Devi, the female king, and the Orissa Bhaumakara dynasty, that has also been worked upon from this point of view. In both these, see, these are regionally very varied, okay, geographically very distant. You have Kashmir, 10th century Kashmir, as depicted in Raj Tarangini. You have the Orissa Bhaumakara dynasty, 9th to 11th century, and here you have the Kakatiyas of Warangal, 13th century. Okay, we see a different line of succession. And that we cannot explain by the patrilineal system. You can only explain by a certain kind of bonding to kinship system and familial system. You want the succession of the throne to stay within the same kin relation. So therefore, when there was no male successor, therefore these women were powerful, were becoming important. So this is sort of deviation from the patrilineal mode that we usually encounter in these didactic texts, in most of these texts. So this is another domain which has been worked on and which is giving us new light on gender relations. Now another aspect is the question of reproduction. And biological reproduction, how that has been seen. In fact, Kumkum Rai herself has worked on this. And she's saying that we have to look at reproduction as a historical process, and not just the way women are depicted in literature, just as instruments of reproduction. So Kumkum Rai is looking at a larger context. Now when we are talking about reproduction, obviously then the next question would be, what was the nature of sexuality? Was it just determined by marriage or marital relationships, or there was a different dimension?
The other forms of sexuality.
Other forms, a different dimension of sexuality. So you see, the lawgivers, they are on the one hand, they are trying to reduce the marriageable age of women. On the other hand, an unmarried beautiful woman in full bloom of her youth, she is being portrayed in classical literature and Sanskrit literature. And often such an image is coinciding with the image of a gonika or prostitute. So this brings us to this very important institution on which a lot of work has been done in recent years, that is on the Vaishya, the Ganika or the prostitute. one of the foremost Marxist feminist historians of our time, that is Sukumari Bhattacharjee, and her very important work on prostitution.